Greetings. My name is Jim Leach. I'm the factory manager at John Deere Harvester Works, and I'm honored to be able to present to you today to talk a little bit about Harvester's digitalization journey, as well as how that has impacted really positively our ability to navigate COVID-19 in a very dynamic, fast-paced manufacturing environment. So just a little bit about me. I'm originally from the Midwest. I grew up about an hour away from where I work now, although I've lived multiple different locations, not just in Iowa, but around the world. My wife also works for John Deere, and we have a fairly large dynamic family ranging from 11 months old to 21 years old of children, which keeps us incredibly busy. My education was largely in the Midwest. And really my career has been focused almost extensively on operations, from shop floor supervisory positions through operations manager in Brazil at our combine front-end equipment planters factory, and now as a factory manager at really the largest combine factory in the world. As I mentioned, I lived and worked in Horizontina, Brazil for a little less than a year and a half to help usher in some new product programs, and really benefited from that experience of living in a completely different culture, trying mightily to learn a language, and really just the richness of the relationships and the different experiences. And prior to working for John Deere, I was an infantry officer in the Marine Corps, and really I'm proud, I certainly hope to finish this way, that the two organizations that I'll spend my professional career with were the Marines and John Deere, and really the dignity of our mission here at Harvester Works is to feed the world, which really resonates with all of our employees. And so, speaking about Harvester Works and about John Deere is obviously a very well-established company in the United States and really around the world. Deere is 184 years old, and Harvester, the factory that I work at, has been really in existence since 1912. And we really focus on our core manufacturing processes here of metal fab, welding, painting, and assembly. And we do really pride ourselves in bringing in new technologies and really trying to get on the cutting edge from a large ag and turf factory. We manufacture combines for North America and front-end equipment really for around the world, but bringing in some new products this year. And we have a full host of front-end equipment solutions that mate with our combines to make our farmers the most productive in the world. We also have about 1,500 employees, 25,000 active part numbers, and you can see some of the stats here, but it is a large and complex manufacturing operation. And we're really focused on our customers and delivering distinctive product quality in our employees to make sure that they've got a safe environment to operate in, as well as in ensuring that we are really a premier employer in the area that we are. We are located in East Moline, Illinois. Corporate headquarters is just about 5 or 6 miles away, and Deere clearly is one of the leaders and preeminent in ag and precision ag technology. So when we talk about COVID-19, I won't begin to pretend that I'm going to be able to lecture to such a group on how best to navigate these disruptions, but clearly it was an unprecedented time when you think back to March. Luckily for us, we had been on a digital transformation journey for probably about 2 years. In fact, in the fall of 19, we established a full-time data science team for the factory that had data scientists, data catalysts, and data wranglers. And really, we were focused on how do we get knowledge and predictive knowledge out of our embedded intelligence that was already in the factory, and then how can we continue to drive the connectedness so that we could gain more process control and really push towards how we could figure out new ways, new insights to link disparate systems to gain really business insights. And really we were trying to disrupt ourselves. We were going through a transformation prior to COVID of needing to lean up our organization both on the shop floor and in the office, and really digitalization was the way through smart connected factory technology that we had planned to do that. When COVID hit, we needed to pause, and we really needed to just focus on people. The most important thing we were doing in March and April and May was keeping the factory open. And we needed to do that in such a way that was transparent, that we could assuage our employees' fears in the face of so many unknowns. We could provide PPE, and we are also really flexible with our represented union employees in ways we wouldn't have been before. We really were focused on ensuring they could feel safe. Employees that had pre-existing medical conditions, we allowed them to opt out of work, and we paid them at a reduced rate so that they could continue to provide for their families. We were very conservative in case management early on, with very aggressive quarantine rules, pushing people out of the factory, even though it impacted technology, but ensuring that they could still provide for their families by continuing to pay them at a reduced rate. And then, early on, we needed to really build a better partnership with our UAW partners inside of the factory, because we were designated as critical infrastructure workers because we're vital to food security. And so making sure that the mission of keeping the factory open, even if it was at a reduced rate, and doing it in such a way that our employees could feel safe and not get COVID-19 transmitted here at work, was mission one. And really that took a lot of time on the shop floor, extensive meetings with the UAW, meeting with our safety and medical professionals, with shop floor employees to talk through our cleaning protocols, the PPE. We implemented thermal screening, and really tried to do everything possible in order to gain the employees' trust and keep the factory open. Part and parcel of all that at the very beginning, obviously, just like the rest of the world, was where possible, we pushed people out of the factory if they could work remotely. But clearly, as a heavy manufacturer, if you consider right around 300 to 350 of our employees are what we would call salaried or administrative employees, about 2/3 of them could work from home, but the other 100 had to be at the factory because they were critical from an order fulfillment process to deliver work instruction to the employees, to supervise them, to ensure that we had material continue to flow to the factory. And so really we needed to make sure that we worked remotely where possible, but then we adopted that same focus on people, then process, with the rapid adoption of these work protocols. And where possible, we kept people in the factory. And again, social distancing, PPE, all those things we've learned so much about that we didn't know anything about a year ago, was really critical to keeping the factory open. Getting to where we are from a technology digitalization, this certainly hastened our adoption of these processes. I'm sure, like most manufacturers, we were seeing typical absenteeism, both planned and unplanned, in our factories around 10%. We were seeing 35 to 40%. And so we needed to get in front of these disruptions in order to make sure, going back to one of the promises we have to our customers is distinctive product quality, we needed to figure out new ways to detect these upset conditions caused by absenteeism, and we needed to enable those employees that were going to go cover a job that maybe they hadn't been trained on. We needed to enable them to be successful and also safe. So one of the first things we did was we reduced our rate of production. We would be dynamic in our expectation for how many combines or how many pieces of front-end equipment we were going to make that day based on who was in the factory. We already had a prioritization as well of what products and what departments would get staffed first. So it was a very dynamic first half hour to 45 minutes of making sure that we moved people and got them to the positions they were going to most be successful to produce those products that were most critical to that particular day based on shipping requirements, customer needs. So very dynamic time. And our entire factory was set up to be sequenced from a material perspective. And so we needed to get good really fast on how do we make these decisions and how can we push that information upstream so that we could reduce waste and variation and rework. So one of the first things we did was level-based operator certification. So we digitized our entire operator certification matrix. We knew the alumni lists of every single operator in the factory, what jobs they've run, what departments they'd been in, how long it'd been since they were last there. And we came up with predictive models where once we had all of our employees clock in at the beginning of the shift, algorithmically, we could predict the most optimal placement of employees for us to reach our production goals and minimize safety and quality. We also incorporated the employees' quality history because we have extensive process automation here called JDAT. It's really an MES tool that allowed us to track all the stations the employees in, every single step of work, and it was tied to their particular clock number, whether it was torques, serial number, any of those details we could get, and we built a predictive model so we could optimize the placement of our employees. We also built a heat map in the factory for those stations or those particular jobs that are most critical to quality, whether it had been a warranty claim somewhere in the past, or we knew from just the complexity of the process that an untrained operator should never be there. And if we did have an untrained operator, we had overrides that would have to, we basically had interlocks by station, by step, that we would have to have a manufacturing engineer, a quality engineer, or a supervisor would have to unlock that station before the employee could go to work or before that product could advance to the next station. So really put in some very tight process controls as well as predictive models to help employees get to where they were going to go, and then make sure that we were as equipped to be successful as possible when you've got 35 to 40% of your employees not show up for that shift. We also implemented real-time notification alerts for quality issues. So if what we would call a Q note inside of our MES system, if there was a detection in that a particular step didn't happen or a torque range wasn't met or a prox sensor didn't get engaged, it would be a real-time alert to the manufacturing engineer, the QE, and the module leader in that area, as well as to the operator in that zone, pop up a dialog box in the PC tied to their workstation so they would know that something is out of process control and to stop, hit their and-on light, and wait for help. And again, we really focused on quality first. Safety, in that we could keep the factory open. We weren't going to put people in an upset condition where they were working out of ergonomic ranges or that they were in a position where the lack of knowledge allowed them to be in an unsafe condition. And then we also really focused on quality. And we really doubled down on, if we're safe and we do it in a quality manner, we will be able to catch up. And at one point we ran about a week and a half behind schedule for our combine lines and almost 2 weeks behind schedule for some of our major front-end equipment lines. And we were able to meet our obligation by going slow and then going fast later in the summer once we got through some stabilization, that we were able to hit all of our targets and make sure that we had product in the field ready to go so we could harvest and continue to provide the customers, the farmers, the ability to feed the world, feed the nation. And then when we talk about product quality, we started to get into some of these technological advances that we could really focus on maintaining product quality, but also around how can we increase span of control for our salary workforce. So really got into robotic process automation for some of those necessary non-value added tasks that were very repetitive, and spun up a bot that could help us in this manner. We really have kicked off something we call Mission Control, where we've set aside what had formerly been an office complex that had a myriad number of MEs and QEs sitting there, to where we've got essentially computers that are monitoring the MES system, monitoring torque, monitoring paint temperature, a variety of different conditions, and we're attempting to build predictive models to where we can push a notification to our MEs and QEs that tells them to go to this particular station because it's about to go out of process control. So really trying to leverage and get in front of this. We've got a long ways to go. We clearly want to embrace digitalization, and where possible, we're embracing automation, really with that goal from going from automation to autonomy, but very early in on this journey, particular to Harvester Works. And now transitioning to lessons learned. And again, I go back to my earlier comments. I wouldn't pretend to have solutions to all the problems, or even would not say that we were successful in every facet. It was very dynamic and we learned along the way. But what I think really gained us some credibility with our workforce and with our customers, as well as any other key stakeholders, is we were transparent about the unknowns. When we think about, there was a lot of pressure to close the factory for 2 weeks in the month of April. But in speaking with the employees, it really was, that wasn't what was going to get us out of COVID-19. We were in for the long haul, and so we needed to be very transparent around, there's no easy button to hit here. We're going to have to work together to come up with ways that we can be safe at work, that we can continue to honor our commitments to our customers, and that we could keep the factory open and ensure that we delivered value to our shareholders as well as economic value to all of our employees, because continued employment was the key to getting paid. So really was just transparent about those unknowns and really focused on how do we have a long view of what COVID-19 is going to do from a disruption standpoint within society, but also within John Deere. And then really used, I think it's the old analogy of don't let a good crisis go to waste, of embracing the technological disruption. It is, it's coming. And, really talking very specifically and very openly around, heretofore, a lot of the disruption had been a blue collar disruption. For example, when we brought in a new laser welded system, you might have 30 production employees before you started it, and that number could be 15 later as a result of the automation and all the efficiencies gained from going to robotics. And we've seen that inside the factory. But really being transparent around the technological disruption for the white collar workforce. And the best way to make sure you're relevant now and in the future, regardless of whether it's a COVID-19 disruption or whether it's technology that's coming into the factory that could be disruptive to the workforce, is get in front of it, learn now. And so we had extensive workshops, even in COVID. They could be virtual or we socially distanced, where we were trying to teach our employees about machine learning, where they could sign up for Coursera courses to learn Python and Jupyter, so that they could make sure that their skills were portable and relevant and they could grow with the technology rather than just waiting to be disrupted. And we tried to educate them on jobs that were ripe for automation. We talked about those necessary non-value added tasks earlier. If you had a repetitive task that took you 4 to 5 hours a week, is there the potential to automate that either through RPA or other means, or are there ways to digitize that information so you can unlock insights to go faster? And so we saw a rapid adoption of the Power Suites app, Power BI, and really we saw initially it was a lot about dashboards, but then it became more about insights. And how could we make sure that we were faster to issue identification to problem resolution? And then really, certainly, again, so much more to learn, but be visible, be vulnerable. I spent a lot of time, so did my team, on the shop floor, wearing masks and just being available for employees to come talk. And I don't know how many different employees I talked to about their fears around a loved one or their children, or what do I do if the school's closed? And then they did. And really, John Deere just tried to take a longer view. We're 184 years young. We're going to get through COVID. This isn't the first major disruption Deere's been through. We've been through the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and through all that time, we honored our commitments to our customers and our employees. And so we just wanted to make sure that we were steadfast in that commitment, and that we were in this for the long haul, and that we're going to continue to be respectful, we're going to listen, and we're going to be available. And I think that really helped us to navigate the initial phases of COVID-19. And now clearly we're into year 2, and this year our business condition is like other manufacturers, we're seeing business come back and we're hiring. And so it's a great story for our new hire employees that, look, you're coming into a factory where we've got a track record of success of keeping reinfection rates almost at 0. We can honor our commitments to our customers, and that we are an employer of choice in this area. And so, no Pollyanna story. There were some dark days, and I wouldn't pretend that we had all the answers, but really that's the focus from a Harvester Works digitalization and COVID journey to get to this point. And I'm honored to be able to share just a little bit of what we went through, and I hope there was some value in this presentation for the folks that get to hear it. And with that, I look forward to the more engaging portion of the day where we have an opportunity to do some question and answers. So with that, again, Jim Leach, Factory Manager, Harvester Works. Very excited to be able to present a little bit about what we learned here, and wish all of you the very best of the rest of your day. So thank you very much.